Hello and welcome to this tactic user tip, which will be slightly longer than usual, but I'm going to show you how to use the great new player cleanup function, sort of player drag tool, which is new to Tactic Pro version 5.4. Now, Tactic has always had the player drag tool. What it does is if you have a good key, as I have here, I've got a chroma key enabled, it allows you to grab hold of a player and cut him out from the background. And this is done automatically because we've got a nice chroma key and it fills in the background behind. And we can even do things like add an arrow. Let's put on the motion paths to here to see this animate. Okay, I've already got my paw set up. I'm just going to press the letter R key to take this out. Okay. So there we have it, quite a nice tool there. But we've been limited to using the player drag tool on players that have a nice keyed background. What would be a problem is if we wanted to drag this player, for example. You see he's got part of the player behind him there. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's drag him to a new position. I want him to be over here. Now, of course, you see what's happened. What we're doing is we're actually cutting out a rectangle and we've moved everything within that rectangle, which includes part of this player. Before, we haven't been able to do anything about that. But what we can do now is if I right click on the player drag tool, whilst this one is selected, I can choose my cleanup functions. And here I can start to get rid of the artifacts that I don't want. Okay, so we've got our target player there and we've got the origin. The first thing I want to do is actually sort of start to erase this player. I'm going to zoom in now and I'm going to use the Alt key on the keyboard. And whilst it's held down, roll the middle mouse wheel. The equivalent of this on a Mac is the Option key and the right mouse button. So that's zooming. If I wanted to pan, I move left, right, up and down. Then I hold the Alt key and press the mouse wheel. Or on a Mac, press the Option key and the left mouse button, as I'm doing so here. This is the same functionality you'll find when creating camera angles in a virtual stadium. Okay, let's start erasing. What I have is I have a brush here and I'm going to select the Erase tool. And as I do that, I'm just going to erase the parts of the player that are coming into the target here. Using the mouse wheel without the Alt will change the size of my brush. I can do that here, of course, as well. So I'm going to make that come in a bit further. And I'm also going to make this soft now because I want to give it a nice soft edge. Just in case I go over a bit, I'm going to get it really small there. Okay, right, so do a little bit there. So if we zoom out now, in fact, I think we'll take a bit around his hand as well. Erase that. If we zoom out now, we can see there that I've made things better for the target player. However, we've still got the problem here where the player that's left behind is missing half his body. So how do we correct that? So I'm going to zoom into this guy now. Let's drag that down a little bit. Now what I'm going to start doing is painting the rest of his body and the rest of his leg that's been cut out there. And I'm going to use the anti-erase button now. So that's basically drawing back what's there. So we can see we've got his leg and his foot there and over here. Now, of course, once we start getting here, now we're starting to get his leg, but also the other player that was in the foreground. Okay, so how do we correct this? Of course, we don't have the pixels to redraw his leg. Fortunately, what we do have is we have a player here who's got a leg in pretty much the same position. So I'm actually going to clone this. So I'm going to do that by using the Set Clone to Source tool, put my mouse over here, over this part, and then just click. Okay, as I do so, you can see I've taken a picture of that. And you can also actually do this using the Control key. See if I hold down the Control key and click there, I've got his left foot, of course. But I don't want that, so I'm just going to go back to here, click on where the edge of the shorts are, and I'm going to match it up kind of pretty much to the same position. Hold down left mouse key, and now I'm just going to paint. And as I do that, you can see my target, my clone source, is moving at the same time. So basically, I'm painting the other guy's leg onto this guy. Okay, that's not too bad. Perhaps what I can do is I can sort of clone a bit of this grass, which is the same colour, and paint to get around that, because you see that the grass is a different colour on the source around there. So I'm just going to paint around here. Well, maybe I can take that grass, make that a bit closer colour there. Now, of course, his leg doesn't look perfect there, but I think if we zoom out, you can see we can get away with that. Okay, so I'm going to close down the player drag function there, and let's just press the R key to put a pause at the end of that. And now, let's watch. I think that looks pretty good. and certainly good enough to use and get away with. Now, if you're doing sports such as football or soccer, which are outdoor sports on a large flat colour playing surface, then watching a video up to now is probably enough for you. If you're doing indoor sports such as basketball, it might be worth watching the rest of the video here. For you guys, you've got a lot more challenges. First of all, you don't have a nice key, you've got a lot of texture on the playing surface, lots of different colours, plus the camera angle's so low that your players often have advertising hoarding behind them. Let's try this player, for example. You can see what happens here. We've got quite a lot of work that needs to be done here. But with player drag cleanup, it is possible to get something that looks kind of okay. Let me show you how. I'm going to go into the cleanup process on the tool, right click, and let's look at the player first. I'm going to zoom into him. You can see he's actually had bits of him left behind there, and it's partly because I've got a bad key. Perhaps I could have spent more time on a key. I'm going to use this tool here called hide clip. So now I can see just the player with no clip behind, so I can see which parts of him have been left behind there. So what I'm going to do is just use the anti-erase tool to fill in the bits of him that have been left behind. So he's got some pixelization there. I'm not too worried about going over him because I'm going to sort of correct these later in a bit here around his waist and on his neck. Okay, that's alright. So I'm going to go to erase now, and I can start to erase, but what I want to do when I get close to him is actually soften the brush quite a lot, and you'll see the effect there. We have a sort of soft brush. I'm going to zoom in a bit, and I'm going to pay a bit of attention around these parts here. Maybe even make the brush a bit smaller around this bit. Okay, yeah. Let's go around. That's actually, that black bit's actually part of his hair, I believe. So we'll leave that there. When it is black, perhaps I'll show the clip for here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so sort of hiding a clip or showing a clip, it's really up to you. When you do it, you can sometimes find it useful to toggle between the two. Okay, I'm going to carry on doing this for a while. You can see I'm just getting as close as I can. I'm going to use a combination of erase and anti-erase. I'll probably speed up the clip until I get to a point where I finish. Okay, so I've finished getting a nice edge. I'm going to increase the size of the brush, make it hard, and now I'm going to erase everything around here, and I'm pretty sure that when we zoom out, this is going to look kind of okay. There we go, let's zoom out. Yes, he looks alright. Yeah. But now we need to go to the other part of the bits he's left behind. That obviously needs quite a bit of work. So let's zoom into here. And now what I'm going to do is use the anti-erase to actually get rid of all these bits here. Now, of course, here I'm painting the background in, but I've also painted him in places I don't want. So now I'm going to have to start to use the clone tool. So let's go and say, well, I'll tell you what, let's see if I can clone this part here. Use this as my clone source, so set clone source. Use that. Well, actually, no. What I do is do, yeah, right up to the avatar, right up to the sort of advert there. And now maybe I'll zoom in here, and I'll start to just sort of paint away like this. And that is not looking too bad. I need to get rid of his hand there, so I'm going to set apart the court as the clone source. Yeah, close up that's not too pretty, but I think once you zoom out it will look kind of okay. I'm just going to choose the flat color of the advertising hoardings here now, and I'm going to paint him out like so. And I'll say now I can maybe set this part as a clone source. Just drag across. Oh, unfortunately, I need to go a bit further back because I took a bit of the circle with me. Okay, come out. And of course we need to get rid of his face there, so again I can just choose part of this flat colour and paint that out. The problem here is, of course, we've got advertising behind there, so fortunately for me, we could got the same advert here, so I can just set that as a clone source. Actually, what I might do is set there, so I can right on that corner, so I can line that up, and then if we just paint that over, it's basically painting the same advert into a different place. And if we zoom out, that will look okay, I'm sure. I'm just going to get rid of this part of him here. So I'm going to set the clone source to there. And now just paint. Just drag and paint him. And he's got sort of a bit of flatness on there. Well, I've got a bit of the pole there, so I'm going to go back and correct that in a moment. Maybe set this as the clone source now. Paint up and down there. Yeah, set that. Let's do that. Okay, now close up, I can see all the artifacts. I can see that's not very pretty. Oh, I've forgotten to do some erasing here. Look, so let's just get the edge there. But if I zoom out, I think that looks kind of okay. I think we can get away with that. So I'm going to close this down now. Let's take the graphic out here. Go back to the beginning and play. And I think that's kind of acceptable. I think we can get away with that. So that concludes this user tip. I hope you can see the usefulness of the new cleanup tools, and thank you for watching.